I didn't believe in Santa Claus, not anymore. Not since I was 6, when my older brother let me in on the truth. "He's just a guy in a costume," Jacob said, with the smugness only an older sibling could muster. That night, I watched my parents sneak the gifts under the tree, confirming everything. It was the first crack in the magic of childhood. But this year was different. It started innocently enough. A single Christmas card slipped under my door, handwritten in elegant cursive. "You've been very good this year," it read. No signature. No return address. I figured it was a prank. Probably my neighbor Mrs. Hill, who loved baking cookies and meddling in everyone's lives. I crumpled the card and tossed it in the trash, thinking nothing of it. The second note came a week later, pinned to my mailbox with a rusty nail. This one was creepier. "I see you when you're sleeping." Classic Christmas song lyric, sure, but it felt wrong. The ink was smeared, as though whoever wrote it had shaky hands. I stood in the cold December wind, staring at the note, the hairs on my neck prickling. I scanned the street. Nothing but snow and the glow of festive lights. Shaking it off, I ripped the note into pieces and went inside. That night, I double-checked the locks before bed. By Christmas Eve, I'd convinced myself it was all in my head. The notes had stopped after all. Maybe it was Mrs. Hill, drunk on eggnog and mischief. Still, I couldn't shake the unease. Something felt off, like I was being watched. I settled into bed early, determined to sleep through the holiday. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was a text from an unknown number. "I'm coming down the chimney." My throat tightened. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the call button. But who would I call? The police? What would I even say? "Hi, officer, someone's sending me creepy Christmas messages. Can you arrest Santa?" I decided it was another prank. I silenced my phone and tried to sleep, pulling the blankets over my head like a kid hiding from monsters. I woke to a sound. A thud. My eyes snapped open, heart hammering in my chest. The house was silent, save for the wind howling outside. And then I heard it again. A faint scraping, followed by the groan of wood under weight. My mind raced. An animal, maybe? A raccoon on the roof? I tried to convince myself it was nothing, but the sound grew louder, closer. Thud. Scrape. Groan. It was coming from above me. I slid out of bed as quietly as I could, my bare feet hitting the cold floor. Grabbing the baseball bat I kept by the door, I crept into the hallway. The house felt foreign, shadows stretching long and dark in the dim glow of the Christmas tree lights from downstairs. As I reached the living room, I froze. The fireplace. Something was moving in the chimney. The scraping sound was louder now, accompanied by a low guttural grunting. Ash rained down onto the hearth. My mouth went dry as I gripped the bat tighter, staring at the dark opening. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. Then a boot, black and worn, its sole caked in soot, emerged from the chimney, followed by another. My legs felt like lead as a figure began to descend, squeezing through the narrow space with unnatural ease. He dropped onto the hearth with a heavy thud. He wasn't Santa Claus. Not the jolly, red-suited man from childhood stories. This thing was taller, his frame gaunt yet hunched, as though carrying some immense, invisible weight. His suit was crimson, but not plush or festive. It clung to his body, tattered and stained. His beard was long and matted, streaked with something dark. And his eyes. God, his eyes. They were sunken, rimmed in black, yet they burned with an intensity that pinned me in place. He smiled, revealing teeth too sharp and too many. A burlap sack hung from one shoulder, its contents shifting as though alive. "You've been very good this year," he rasped, his voice like wind through dead trees. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He stepped closer, his boots leaving black smudges on the carpet. The sack twitched, and a muffled whimper escaped from inside. My stomach turned. What do you want?" I managed to stammer, raising the bat. It felt pitifully small in my hands. His grin widened. "To give you what you deserve." I swung the bat, adrenaline overriding my fear. It connected with his shoulder, the impact jarring my arms. He barely flinched, his bony fingers shooting out to grab the bat. He yanked it from my grip like I was a child and tossed it aside. The clatter echoed through the room. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on the edge of the rug. I hit the floor hard, the wind knocked out of me. He loomed over me, his shadow swallowing me whole. "Please," I choked out, tears streaming down my face. "Don't hurt me." He cocked his head, as if considering. Then he crouched, bringing his face level with mine. The smell of soot and decay made me gag. "I don't hurt the good ones," he whispered. "But you lied." My mind raced, trying to understand. "Lied? What do you mean I didn't?" His hand shot out, gripping my chin with icy fingers. "You stopped believing," he hissed. "You told yourself I wasn't real, but I am, and I never forget." The sack twitched violently, a muffled scream piercing the air. My blood ran cold. Whatever was in there, it wasn't just toys. "What are you?" I whispered. He leaned in closer, his breath freezing against my skin. "The reckoning," he said. And then he was gone. I blinked, gasping for air. The room was empty. No soot, no smudges, no sack. Just me sprawled on the floor, trembling. The clock struck midnight, and somewhere outside, a bell chimed. Christmas Day. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. When the sun rose, I searched the house from top to bottom. There was no sign of him. No footprints, no ash. Even the baseball bat was back in its usual spot. I tried to convince myself it was a nightmare. A vivid, horrible dream brought on by stress and too many Christmas cookies. But deep down, I knew better. The last note arrived that afternoon, slipped under my door. It was simple, scrawled in the same shaky hand. "I'll see you next year.